Hi there, and welcome to the Pastors on Porn podcast. Today, I want to do an episode based on an episode I did on my twin podcast, the Finding Traction podcast. And I want to go ahead and play that. It's all about the lies we tell ourselves. But at the end, I want to make some specific references to applications for those of us who are in ministry, who are struggling with this number one lie. So we'll see you then. Well, welcome back. I know I had some fun on my last podcast and YouTube episode called Grow a Pair. And a couple fun stories that came out of that episode. First of all, it was my highest watched YouTube episode and podcast to this point. And it's funny because on YouTube, where I put my videos, within a day, I put a picture of some large bull testicles on the thumbnail for that video, and within a day, YouTube took that down. I'm going, like, what's the deal? I was raised on a farm. I remember castrating cows. I'm a very earthy guy, but YouTube apparently couldn't handle it, even though I said the video wasn't for kids. And, but apparently, with all the crap they have on there still, YouTube didn't like it. So I said, fine. So then I switched it to a thumbnail video of, the testicles that, people hang on the back of their pickup trucks. And, that lasted about 4 hours before YouTube took that picture down. It's like, oh, give me a break. So, what are we going to do for a, episode called Grow a Pair? And so my wife had this amazing idea. She says, why don't we go and get a couple pairs from the store? And my son has his own YouTube channel, and he was like rolling his eyes. It's like, Dad, you just can't put testicles on this. But my wife says, why don't you go out and get a pair of fruit pears? And my son is a photographer. He took a picture of a pair of pears. And to this point, on YouTube, they haven't taken it down yet. So my Grow a Pair episode has got the third thumbnail picture. So there you go. And my son, his podcast channel is called Darren for Super President. He's got about 1,000 subscribers. He loves YouTube and is a bit of a YouTuber. And he says to me, Dad, like, he's telling me all these tricks of YouTube. And so anyway, so he's partly mentoring me through this process. But I always have been accused of being a little out there on the edge. And today I want to talk about this whole idea of the number one lie that we tell ourselves when we look in the mirror. The lie that keeps us from truly walking into a place of freedom. And to hearken back to this, I want to go back to a couple previous shows I did. I called the 5 myths of my recovery. They all started with M, and they were masturbation, memorization, marriage, ministry, and maturity. And I called them myths because they were things that I believed would magically get me over the hump of breaking free from these addictions in my life. And, is myths the best thing to call it? Because in one sense, you know what? I genuinely believe these, and it was like wishful thinking. I mean, I had the best of intentions. I hope that each of these would bring me to a place of freedom. I mean, let me give you an example. It's a common one that most guys would relate to. When I was in my early 20s and single, I was thinking, I was struggling with, like most of us, with, watching pornography of naked women and people having sex and imagining myself as part of that. And, and so I'm hopefully going, boy, it's going to be so good when I get married, and then I'm going to be in the picture, so to speak, and I just am not going to have to deal with this. It was wishful thinking. It was hopeful thinking. And was it an intentional myth? Well, maybe it was. But what I found out is, like many, many guys, getting married might have given you a few months of reprieve. But when you entered into having, having your wife pregnant or young children and your wife not available and all of the things that happen along with having a young family, many people find it's not long before these things come back. So marriage did not result in freedom for me. It was a myth. It was a hopeful thing. So anyways, but I realized looking back that there is one thing that starts with the letter M, which I think is the greatest myth of all. It's the number one lie that I tell myself. And it all has to do with that very simple, that very idea of myself, the myth of myself. And, it plays out a number of different ways. And I'm going to give you a few examples. And then over on my twin podcast, Pastors on Porn, we're going to give you a few applications of how this relates to ministry. But each one of these ways this lie plays out, there's truth in it. And there's just enough truth to make it compelling and to hold us to it. So I think this is the number one lie, and it all revolves around, I can do it myself. Now, there's some reasons that we think that, and there's ways this plays out. Here's the first one. I will be able to overcome this when I understand the addiction. I've met guys that are, have 50 books on sexual addiction. They want to get into every aspect of brain science, which is interesting. They want to understand every chemical that's going on in addiction. They want to understand all the nuances, and they think by understanding what's going on, that's somehow going to give them an effective tool of mastery. It does not. It just explains why you're addicted. But just learning to understand it, which I'm all for. In my Finding Traction course, we'd spend time, a third of the course is all about issues of understanding. I understand its value, but on its own, it will not bring you to a place of freedom. So that's the first way I think this lie plays out. I just need to understand this addiction better. Here's a second way it plays out. I'm going to be able to overcome this myself when I finally get some healing for my life. So people pursue healing. They don't, they do this in a way where they go and I'm all for counselors. I'm all for getting healing. They get, they pay for therapy and they deal with some of their life hurts and issues, some of their the wounding in their family of origins. And I'm all for that. I've been through some of that. I encourage that. But again, if I'm thinking that simply getting healed up is going to bring me to a place of freedom, that is short-sighted. Here's the third one. I'm going to be able to overcome this myself because this time I'm really serious. I really mean it. Maybe you had a brush with exposure. Maybe you got scared. Maybe something happened that freaked you out, or you thought, boy, I just about got caught. And you're in this reaction, emotional reaction of, I'm just so glad I'm never going to put myself in that position again. You will. Or maybe what happened is you're coming out of the remorse around that follows a relapse. And you're in this bit of a pink cloud where all you are is feeling this overwhelming feeling of sadness. And you're just going, I would do anything to not have to feel this again. I am so done with this. And your resolve feels really strong until it's not. Maybe you simply have told yourself looking in the mirror that I finally learned my lesson and I finally come to a point where this will never happen again. My son tells me this study, it's in the weightlifting area, and I think I've referenced this before, where you can simply tell other people that you're going to do some physical exercise and your brain can't understand or can't differentiate, and it gives you almost the rush or the reward as if you did that activity and you've not done it at all. You simply talked about doing it, but your brain goes, oh, we did it. I think some of that is at play in this idea that we're telling ourselves and convincing ourselves and fooling ourselves and lying to ourselves that on our own now, we've now this time finally mustered up the willpower, the resolve to turn a corner. Let's just throw another little simple one out there. I'll be able to overcome this because now I have a good filter on my computer. I've taken care, I've put a password on this on my smartphone. And so now I've dealt with it. We're all good. I'm all for filters. I've done Net Nanny. I'm presently with Covenant Eyes. All of those kind of things. I'm all for those. But again, trust me, that is not going to get you there. It's only a matter of time before you're looking at ways around it. And the best filters in the world you can easily bypass. You'll always find a way, and it will become almost a challenge for you to find a way around what you did in a different version of yourself when you had lots of resolve. And here's the fifth one. It's the good spiritual angle. And I've certainly heard this a lot in the church from people who call themselves Christians or followers of Jesus. I will be able to overcome this with God's help. And again, I am not against spiritual answers. I am not against a spiritual walk. And I think that can provide a powerful impetus in terms of, and momentum in terms of our recovery. But I've come to think when I meet somebody who I just find is overly or super religious or spiritual, I always ask myself, what are they hiding? What are they trying to talk themselves into by their great spiritual talk? Now, if you go through every one of these examples, you will see that they have something in common. Every one of these expressions of this lie still leave me and myself in my carefully guarded secret. I mean, even the last one, sure, I can tell God and repent and ask for his help, but really, I'm still in my own little world. The bottom line with each of these examples, the number one myth, lie of myself, is I don't have to involve anybody else. And I get it. It's scary to tell somebody. It's scary to cross the line or that chasm and bring somebody else into the picture. But if you're not willing to do that, you will never get to the point, I believe, where you will truly find victory. There's a number of lines that we talk about in addictions. One of them is, for example, the flesh line, where you've gone and you've crossed from imaginary people to real people. But I think this is the most important line of all. I've crossed from trying to do it on my own to now eliciting the help from real live other people who can come alongside and help me. I'm past the point of trying to figure this out on my own, of trying to confess or resolve my way into a new way of life. And I've finally got to a point where I'm willing to allow somebody else to know my story. I mean, that was such a huge part of my journey. And you can stay in that hiddenness and secrecy. I just talked to a guy recently who was, close to 30 years of secrecy with his wife. 30 years of not being able to break free. The faster you are able and willing to cross that line, the faster it is that you're going to find that freedom. The faster you say, you know what, I'm no longer going to believe that I can figure this out, walk this out, learn this out, willpower this out, self-control this out, the sooner you will find the freedom and the relationships that you've always dreamed about. So, just a couple of quick points. I'd love to connect with you. My email is simple, bandofbrothers@shaw.ca. And I have Zoom groups that I do counseling with. I do individual counseling with people. This fall is coming. Right now we're August 2020. And this fall, I'm going to be starting up some more online Zoom groups where you can relate to people outside of perhaps your locale, and you can begin to share your story and get the support of other people. I'd love to connect with you again. If you haven't been on the website, bandofbrothers.care, and I also encourage you to try a very first lesson, which is under the Finding Traction tab, and it's Do I Have a Problem? So next time you look in the mirror, hopefully you see some people standing behind you. I know it sounds a little creepy, but remember, that is absolutely crucial. God bless you. See you next time. Let me add a couple notes just related to pastors, missionaries, people in ministry as related to this topic. I would say for us in ministry, there is one added thing that sometimes plays into this. Under this whole thing of myself, you might be thinking and feeling, I have to do this on my own. Because you're thinking, if, maybe you're on the mission field and you're thinking, if those that support me found out that I had this problem, they would cut their support. Or you're thinking, if the mission agency that sent me, if they found out that we were having these problems in our marriage or in my life, then I would perhaps be sent home. If you're a pastor, you're thinking, let's say you're on staff, you're going, if my elders found out, or if my co-pastors or my lead pastor, or maybe you're the lead pastor and you're thinking if the board found out, it's the fear of what would be the possible repercussions if my story and my struggle became known. All of those things keeps you locked in that secret mode where you go, I have got to figure this out on my own. I can't involve other people. And it's a catch-22 because as we've already talked about, as long as you stay in that mode, you're never going to get free. You've been trying to get free on your own for how many years? And so if you're in that place, you're a pastor, you're in ministry, and you're looking for a safe place to turn, I would love to hear from you. I get it. I've been in that place. I'm a pastor. I lead a church. I understand the struggles. Now, I've had some unique circumstances that allowed me to let my story become known, but you might not be in that place yet, and I'm willing to work with you in that anonymous place. One of the things, it's August 2020 right now, and in the next few weeks, I'm going to be starting a Zoom group. It's a subscription group, but it's for people in full-time, in ministry, pastors, missionaries, who are looking for some confidential help, who are looking for some confidential allies that they can begin to wrestle this through. So if you're open to, what we do is we get together once a week, and I throw in as part of the subscription just the course as well, and we walk through that for 52 weeks. Usually I ask people to sign up for 3 months, and then after that, but we spend a year together. And it's something that I've done my first group now. It was a bit of a beta group. We had a great time. And we're actually continuing it right now with going through John Michael Cusick's book, Surfing for God, which I'm going to interview him this week. I'm really looking forward to that. But I'd encourage you to consider joining the Zoom group that I run. To find out more about that, or you just want to have an individual conversation and just kind of share your concerns or struggles, and just to do that, I'm cool with that as well. Just for you to say, hey, I want to talk with Vern and just decide if this might work or not work. No pressure, no obligation. Just let me know. We'll connect with a Zoom conversation, and I'd love to hear your story and see how I can help. So God bless you. We'll see you next time. I should have John Michael Cusick on here at the end of this week. Really looking forward to that. See you then.